have no idea if I'm live yet. Am I live? Okay, watch this. How insanely wonderful is this? It's a mouse pad. Matt Urquhart's fault. He did this incredibly fabulous caricature of me because I browbeat him into doing it. and then I said, oh my God, I'm gonna put this, what's that awful commercial? I put that on everything. So the mouse pad and the purse and the backpack and the leggings and the wall thing for when I go to Cape, the live event in Cornwall, whenever we get out of quarantine. It's going to be everywhere. Matt, they're going to hate you because I'm going to say it's all Matt's fault. Is this so cute or what? All right. There's another thing I need to talk to you about this morning before I get actually started. First of all, there's a couple of things I need to talk to you about. Follow the Chinese horoscope. Happy, it's finally not minus triple digits or whatever it's been. It's now actually quite reasonable. I wouldn't call it seasonal. Oh, you know what? It's the 1st of February and it's minus single digits. I guess it is seasonal. How pathetic is that? So the other thing I need to tell you is this extraordinary thing happened the other day. I received a message from a fabulous friend of mine who said, hello, darling, can I have your snail mail address? Sure. So I gave it to him. And then this arrived in the, this arrived at my post office. So here's what's really interesting. Pardon me for doing something that looks remarkably rude, but so this is a dancing Viking, which really they weren't running and scaring people. They were dancing. You should be dancing. As Milky just said, you should be dancing. Yeah. All right then, Milky. John Milky, this is for you, darling. Vikings are dancing in your honor. All right. Is this wonderful? Philip Collier, Randall, you're just the most amazing friends. And this led me, can we just do this a little bit more? How can you remain any kind of negative when you have a dancing Viking that you can just hang on your wall? And anytime somebody says or does something remarkably stupid, you can just say, excuse me a minute, but I need to go and commune with my muse. And so I've named this Viking Magnus. And the reason I did that is because Magnus is a character in this lovely book that was a joint effort created sort of over the course of 2.5 years, and then had to be recreated, and then had to be recreated because of COVID and because of all kinds of ridiculously stupid behavior. And the book is called Unsuitable, which, when I pick names and I say, okay, that's going to mean this, and then the Viking gods and all the other gods say, actually, no, we have other plans for you. It's going to mean that. And so Unsuitable was a story about people who break the rules, who fall in love with something, someone, some goal, and they need to follow that dream, that passion, that desire. And sometimes it ends badly. And sometimes negative parts within us rise up and say, if, well, I can have this, then I can have so much more. And it traced the lives of a lot of people who really are in my life, who really have been in my life. And Magnus was one of them. And the inner hit story, it's a historical story, uh, is about the history of the Viking exodus from Norway and Sweden and Denmark at a time when people were hungry for power in ways that were deadly. And in researching the work that I did on Vikings all those years ago, I discovered something quite remarkable, and that was that at one point in time, a man who wanted to be king said to all of the very wealthy, very powerful, if you like, here's the deal. I'm going to kill you and take your land, or you can become my serfs, and I'm going to take your land. And many of them chose one or the other of those options. If you fight me, I'll kill you. If you don't fight me, you'll become my slaves. A lot of them said, you know what, we like the look of door number 3, which is check please. We have boats and we can go someplace else. And this man said, if you go, you will be branded forever as outlaws, and there will be a price on your head, and I will hunt you down like the dogs you are. And these particular Vikings said, okay, so we still like it better than options 1 and 2, and besides, you're going to be fairly busy. Probably you won't be chasing us actively. Meanwhile, get in the boat, row, damn it, row. And they did. And they went to all the places where we see that they arrived. The curious thing about the Viking age, as they call it, was it didn't last a long time. It was only a couple of 100 years. And they were desperate to find new places to live. So they were desperate, and desperate times led to desperate measures. And yet, here they all are. And they came to America. They came to Greenland. And there's evidence they were in the Caribbean. There's evidence that they were in the Mediterranean. There's evidence that they were in New Zealand. There's evidence that they were in South America. There is actual archaeological evidence that they reached all those places. And made friends and enemies along the way. And the reason I'm talking about that is not that I thought today was a good day for a history lesson. It's because it leads into my topic. And my topic is pivot. Pivot, pivot, pivot. I've spent most of my life pivoting. As we all know, the military causes you to do that. The military causes you to show up in new places and look around and say, so that thing I was going to do clearly isn't going to work here. And so you have to pivot. If you spent most of your life in the northern climate, then you have a lot of winter clothes. If you get posted someplace south, see, there's that whole parka thing that isn't going to work. And so what do? Do you resolutely wear the parka? Okay, then you've invented a new weight loss program. I'm just going to write that down. The parka program. Yeah, why not? No dumber than a lot of other things we see. Parka program. All right. And so in order to take up a new concept, you have to let go of the old ones. You can't keep lugging around all the ideas and all the habits and all the behaviors that you had if you're going to try and adapt and adopt and apply new ones. It's just not possible. And so you learn to be flexible. You learn to lean into the curves. You learn to shield yourself from the wind, get in out of the rain. You learn to be humble in the face of great influences that come along in life. A long time ago, I talked about this very funny thing I heard a stand-up comedian say. It was funny and it was incredibly profound. Ron White, brilliant stand-up comic, part of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, was talking about the hurricanes in Florida and how people were saying, I'm not leaving my home and I'm not afraid of the hurricane and I'm strong and I work out and I'm going to lash myself to a pole and see what happens. And Ron White said, this is the thing to consider. It's not that the wind is blowing. It's what the wind is blowing. If an RV comes at you, born on the hurricane winds, it doesn't really matter how much you've been working out, really. And this is where we are in this moment. This is where we are in a lot of countries in this moment. There are angry voices who resent, like, everything. The changes are being imposed at a great rate. And I don't blame them. I never liked it. And they're resolute that they're not going to go along with it anymore. You can't make me. Okay. So you go ahead and lash yourself to that pole and let me know when the RV comes. There's a story that I've told a couple of times that taught me something very interesting about human nature. It taught a lot of people something interesting about human nature, and I'm going to tell it again, because this is about pivoting. I bought a ticket on a Greyhound bus once to go to Florida and write my first stage show. And it was a great rate, and so I thought I would take the offer up, and I went. And I learned that Greyhound buses and Greyhound bus terminals are not always in the better parts of town. Sometimes they're in very sketchy parts of town. Sometimes you stop in the middle of the night. A very inebriated, very large, very angry person got on the bus and muscled his way to an empty seat. Prior to his getting on the bus, prior to us leaving the previous destination, the bus driver had said to me, "There's a seat at the back, but across from the bathroom." And I said, "Oh, great, thank you." He said, "You can spread out because nobody wants to sit there. And by the way, the lock on the door is jammed. Tell people not to lock the door because I won't be able to get them out." Fair enough. So periodically throughout the day, I had said to people that the lock is jammed. I'm here, I won't let anybody open the door on you. And they would comply. And so the time came and this large inebriated fellow staggered to the back. And I said to him, "The lock is jammed. The bus driver has asked me to tell people don't lock the door." And the large inebriated individual told me in no uncertain terms that I should go and perform a function that is actually physically impossible. And I said, "Okay then." And the individual went in, slammed the door, and then I click, okay, lock the door. So time passed, and I heard the mechanism make its noise, and then he rattled the door to open it, and it didn't open, of course, and it went rattle, 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 nothing. Hammer, 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 nothing. Loud, although muffled, yelling, a variety of words that I had never actually thought of stringing together, but made notes because one never knows. And more pounding, more rattling, more yelling. And then there was silence. And then he knocked. Assuming that I would be dead if he ever got out. Because, what was I going to say? Nobody home. So he said, "You have a nail file?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Slip it under the door." Okay. Found my nail file, slipped it under the door. Rattle, 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 scratch, scratch, scratch. Door goes click and opens. And I said, "Oh." And he hands me back the nail file. He said, "I should have brought my own." And I said, "I guess." And he started to walk away, and he turned his head again. He said, "Thank you." and then staggered off back. So a couple of things happened there. He didn't say I shouldn't have been an idiot. He didn't say I should have listened to you. He said I should have brought my own tool. I should have brought my own flexibility pivot tool. I learned that you can pick a jammed lock with a nail file. He learned to listen to anonymous people who give suggestions. Maybe not act on them, but at least listen, as opposed to thinking, you know. So pivoting is important. What is also important is pivoting not just away from a situation that we don't like. I pivot indoors whenever it drops to below everything outside. Unless I absolutely have to go out, I pivot in because it's warm and I, would rather wear an off-the-shoulder top with a feather boa than a parka. Call me crazy. And last week when I was talking about stuff and stories and Story Me TV, I realized that I've been working on Story Me TV as a concept for 2 years. It is therefore a long path that I have been on for quite a while. It is a familiar thing. I've been thinking it and breathing it and eating it and sleeping it, and I just naturally assume that everybody else is walking in step with me, but of course not, because they have their own things that they're managing and marveling at and shaking their fists at. And so last week I said, I know what I have to do. I have to take a step back. I have to take a step back and pivot. Now, here's the thing I know how to do. I know how to do this almost better than I know how to talk and be funny. I know how to write. I know how to talk with people and listen to people. Ask the questions that puzzle me, listen to their answers, and write them down. I know how to do this because I've practiced, not merely with fame and my famous friends, but with other books, lots of them. And I said to myself, I have a way to show and tell all the people who are getting ready to join me at Story Me TV how this process is going to work. The pivot that I am proposing is that we stop trying to fit into formulas that aren't working the way they used to. Stop trying to fit into the tiny box where these formulas are. Start thinking of ourselves as global citizens with lots of boxes of all shapes and sizes, and friends we just haven't met yet, everywhere, all the time. Story Me TV is designed to be a production company that invites its members and subscribers to be part of the creative process. Why don't we build a tribe of like-minded creative storytellers? They don't have to be able to talk. They don't have to be able to write. They have to be able to tell a story. And stories are told in every way possible that you can imagine. For instance, Matt Urquhart told my story this way. If I do that, there we are. This is a story of me. The purse, the leggings, oh my God, the leggings. It's all a story of me. Story Me TV isn't about Abby's story. I'm just leading the way. I'm the one with the dancing Viking. I'm saying, the boat's over here. Come with me. So here's my plan. Here's my evil plan. It's kind of a mix between the 15 Minutes with Abby exercise that we did at Ottawa Comic Con in 2018, where I asked people to ask me anything on camera without giving me a chance to go away and think about it. And let me see if I can come up with an answer that works for you. And all these people did that. They did that on camera, in front of people. They asked me questions about their lives. And I didn't expect so many of them to be so sincere and real and serious. I thought a lot of it was going to be funny. You know, should I be dyeing my hair green this year? After all, it's whatever month. And no, they weren't. They were asking me real questions about stuff. And I thought, how interesting that they were so ready and so willing to tell me enough of their story that it became a conversation. And they invited me to participate by offering answers. That was a tribe in the making. And then it got sidetracked, it got sidelined. I had technical issues, I had personnel issues, I had people I hadn't pre-qualified to figure out where they would sit in the boat. And then, oh, look, a pandemic. Okay, so I can't do a lot of the things that I'm going to do. The same thing happened with Unsuitable and with Vicarious. A pandemic stopped me in my tracks until I said, well, wait a minute. I don't have to have it stop me in my tracks. I can figure out another way. I'm creative enough to do that. So why don't we do that? So here's the deal. I'm going to publish a series of books because I can do that. Not working, let's try this. And the stories are not going to be mine, although I'm probably going to share at least one or two. The stories are going to be told to me by you. Yeah. So, Fame was 25 stories with a lot of pictures. It's expensive when you buy it on Amazon. It's expensive because Amazon color pictures. Color pictures are on different paper. Makes the book expensive. 250 color pictures. And by the way, that was Matthew Godfrey in those pictures. That was his chapter. Matthew was not only a student at Canterbury High School, the Fame School in Ottawa, he was also one of my kids on You Can't Tell on Television, Matthew and his brother Ammias. And I wanted to talk to them and get them to get to know me now, because they're adults now, get to know me in a new way, and talk to me about what it was like back in the day when they were kids. And the two of us were experiencing something together. That was the purpose of that book. And what we had in common was fame. I also talked to some adults that I had worked with peripherally because I wanted their take on what it was like in their lives, and then what it was like for them working with other kids who were learning who they were and what they had to do in order to pivot, in order to stay relevant, in order to stay in the game, in order to live their own lives rather than chase an illusion that wasn't real, to hang on to something that was no longer going to work for them. The story of life, really. That's what pivoting is. So, I'm so excited about this because I really do love doing these interviews. I really love having these conversations. And what I can do now, thanks to I'm figuring out which way to face and do this, is when I get to a place with the people who have agreed to do this with me, we can do this together. We can Zoom this together and do it live together, asking questions, so that everybody can see us collaborating. And that'll help others decide that they want to get involved. So we're creating the seed of Story Me TV. We're going to do it in print. We're going to collaborate online, on video. We're going to build an opportunity that anyone can buy these books. We can have launch parties anywhere, anytime. And believe me, do I have ideas about launch parties? We can have so much fun with this, and people can get excited about being part of it on their own terms, in their own time, in their own places, all over the globe. So I have an idea for the cover, and I'm not going to share it yet. I have an idea for the title, and I'm not going to share it yet. What I am going to do is I'm going to say that you have to start somewhere. And when I did Fame, I started with people I really thought would want to participate. I asked a bunch of other people who couldn't or wouldn't. So although I ended up with 25, I actually asked about 70 different people. So, you know, a third-ish is a pretty good result. And I expect the same thing's going to happen here. Now, what has been happening on these wonderful video reactions is that it starts out with about 20 people. And then gradually, over the day, because I know I've picked a weird time, I've picked 10 o'clock in the morning, but it's coffee break, darling, and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning in Ottawa time. It's all different times all over the globe. I've picked this slot because no one else was using it. And then people can watch whenever. And then I'm posting it on different Facebook pages, and I'm posting it also on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter. And then I'm also posting it, I'm premiering it on the same day at 7 p.m. my time on YouTube. And what is really interesting is that since I started doing this in, I guess the first video was the 28th of November, 2021, and I've done 2 a week, is that I'm getting about the same numbers of viewers. I'm getting about the same numbers of comments, and eventually I'm ending up with the same numbers of likes and comments and shares. So what we have is evidence of an early adopter pattern, and it's wonderful. It's exciting. I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy that you're doing this. And the positive comments are very rewarding, and I'm loving that I'm hearing about everything. And I haven't today clicked on so I could see the comments because I didn't want to be distracted by the two. So I apologize that I didn't do that. I apologize that I didn't take advantage of that opportunity. But this was so important for me to tell you that I didn't want to try to manage 2 things at once, because everybody knows that that always leaves us wanting a little bit. So it's 10:27 my time. I've been talking about this for just about half an hour. I'm going to invite all of you to reach out in the comments, reach out on Messenger to let me know that you want to be in the book, that you want to share your pivot. It can be a funny pivot, it can be a dramatic pivot, it can be a brave pivot. It's your pivot. And we'll talk about it. And you'll decide whether you want your name used, whether you want your picture used. But I want to tell the story. I want us to share who we are and how we are so much alike. I think it's going to be the most amazing experience for all of us. I think it's really exciting. So, it's my invitation to you to reach out in the comments and say, I'm in. I have a story you won't believe. If you think your dancing Viking is something, have I got something for you? Brilliant. And then we're going to do it together. I'm going to be your scribe. I'm going to be the publisher. And, you know, if we have enough stories, we'll end up with volume 2 and 3. And who knows, 4 and 5. This will be as big as it wants to be. And it's all depending on you and me. We, together, are going to invent the true meaning of Story Me TV. Are you excited? I'm over the moon. Okay. 10:29. I just have time to do this. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for considering this. I'm going to see you on Thursday. I'll tell you more about this project. In the meantime, be good to you. Hug your loved ones.